Joining us is our political editor, Andrew Clennell. Andrew, yeah, as Stephen was just talking about, as most people do, agree that there is a lag when it comes to this kind of thing. When after these interest rates are applied, there's about a 3-month lag. So when the GDP figures come out today, we should start to see things soften, or we hope anyway. So we've already had a government announcement today, which was part of an election pitch to reduce the cost of medicine. That's something. What else is coming?
Well, I don't think much, to be honest. I'd be tempted if I was the government just to keep that petrol excise tax cut on. I think that's going to hurt a lot of people. Treasury itself says it's going to push up inflation by 0.25%. So it's not really helpful. I know it costs the budget, but if you're going to give someone a tax cut, I'd argue on petrol is the way to do it at the moment. I'd be tempted to keep it September 28, but they're not. Treasury's no doubt saying don't do it. But what an extraordinary political situation we have when you think about it, Pete. Imagine if Scott Morrison won. You know, if Scott Morrison won, he'd be in the doldrums politically big time with this cost of living crisis. Instead, I think the polls show that Albanese government's not being pinned at all over it with responsibility, because they're ahead 57-43 in the latest news poll. So they've got that going for them, that the inflation started before they hit office. And of course, it's a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a lot better position than they are in Britain. They're talking about £20 pints there to keep the pubs open.
Unbelievable.
So, and doubling energy bills, doubling them. So, you know, and 11% inflation there. So I'm a bit surprised, to be honest, that Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers don't play that card more often in their rhetoric. Global inflation. But they're keeping the message domestic, but at the moment they're not being blamed for it by the public.
Can you imagine paying $30 for a beer?
No, I don't think I would you?
No. I mean, people just wouldn't go. That's a really interesting point that you make, because I saw that the other day too, and the pubs are out there saying that, oh, well, and this is a UK matter, but they're saying that, well, to keep the business alive, that's how much we're going to have to increase the price of a pint of beer, but no one's going to buy that, so we're probably going to go under. I mean, it's an extraordinary set of circumstances that the UK is facing.
Interesting line by Beth Rigby, the Sky News political editor over there, that package you were running earlier, where she says Liz Truss has got the worst intro a Prime Minister's ever had, just about.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, it is that way. I mean, some of the growth that we're seeing here, some of the strength and resilience of the economy, and indeed the fact power prices haven't gone up to the extent they have in Europe and Britain, is just down to our natural resources, coal and gas.
Yeah.
And as much as the new government wants to talk about renewables, and they're very important to get going into the future, you know, we're still an economy that relies on digging holes in the ground. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, Liz Truss is looking at freezing, Laura and I were talking about this yesterday, she's looking at freezing electricity bills. That's going to come at a cost of about 140 or 150 billion pounds that'll be added to their economy.
Wow.
But yeah, it's quite extraordinary. So they're going to freeze electricity bills because it's getting out of hand. But when it comes to here, Chris Richardson was interesting on the program earlier. He said there's actually not a whole lot you can do. So, you know, we've got the tiger by the tail when it comes to inflation, and other than maybe fuel excise, there's in the short term, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, I would cut the budget, and I would keep going with the fuel excise cut, because that has an actual direct influence on inflation. It flows through, you know, everything through food delivery and all the rest.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're right, there's not much they can do.
What are you hearing?
The childcare measures and all the rest.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, what are you hearing about what might be coming up, or what cuts might have to be made in the October budget?
Well, the thing that I've heard, which I've seen every budget I've covered down here in recent years, is the commodity prices are such that they're already starting from a better budgetary position with a lot lower deficits.
Yeah. So,
yeah, they'll cut some programs. I mean, the opposition says to you, look at the Nationals say, look at the regional programs, they'll cut all them. But, and that remains to be seen, I guess. But they've got a good start on the deficits in terms of those commodity prices. So, yeah, that's the thing to look for in this budget, is the cuts. Do they throw out some cost of living thing as a political thing? Well, they could, but it could be argued that's inflationary, so it has to be small. And in your first year in office, do you need that political sugar hit? I don't think so.
Sure.
So, interesting language, though, around the Stage 3 tax cuts as well. They're quite clearly going to be in the October budget. Will they be altered next May, is what I'm wondering.
Well, I mean, again, Chris Richardson, he thought that they shouldn't be completely abandoned, but they should be wound back. They should be wound back in some way, because the times have changed. But it's still a ways away.
That could hurt them politically.
Yeah,
that could really hurt them politically. So
I'll tell you what,
interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be an intriguing budget anyway. That one.